This is Front and Center with your host, Jacquie Jordan.
Entertainment and pop culture expert Jacquie Jordan is with us.
We are the show where we talk with the change agents, the storytellers, and the activators, making impact from behind the scenes. Hi, I'm Jacquie Jordan. Thank you for joining us on Front and Center with Jacquie Jordan. We are the show where the change agents, storytellers, and activators from behind the scenes making a difference are now joining us on our seat and our show, Front and Center. Joining us today is a longtime gentleman, monarch, news anchor, friend of mine from New York City, Fox 5 New York, ABC 7, Ernie Anastos. And he's got a new show coming out this weekend called Positively America. Thank you, Ernie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Nice to see you.
How about this monumental, historic week?
Honestly, Jacquie, you're also very much aware of what goes on in the world of news and information. And there's always a big story. It really is incredible how news has changed dramatically. There was a time when we had a big story, and then there was a lull, and it was quiet. And we were looking for, a big story, if you will, particularly in the summer months. I always remember being on the air at Channel 7 in New York, ABC. And we go through all of these times when, quiet, and, we were always looking for a story. And now today, everything is different. I mean, we have so many sources, so much information, it's all global. And so there's always a lead story, and it multiplies every day. It's incredible.
And so the Queen has passed. I so wanted to hear from you, like what that's like from your perspective, having covered news and all these big events and all the presidents you've interviewed. As I like to describe, you're the monarch of New York City news, talking about the monarchy passing.
Jacquie, I appreciate you saying that. Yes, 4 decades reporting the news in New York at ABC 7, CBS 2, and also Fox 5 in New York. So, I do have an interesting perspective on so many different things. If we're talking about the Queen, that was an interesting story. In 1997, I was covering the news, and I went to London for the death of Princess Diana. And that was an amazing story. I mean, we were, impacted by it in so many different ways. I mean, she was quite a figure, as you know, and celebrated around the world in so many different ways. So when I went to London for about a week and did all of my broadcasts from there, I was on the street talking to the residents and talking to tourists and government officials and just getting a feel of what was going on. And it was a powerful story because as we all know, it was tragic what happened to her. And at the same time, it was very tender and loving and caring because she just captured so much of the UK, but also the world. So
we saw her boys essentially kind of become orphaned, at least motherless at that time, which was a big deal for us to witness.
It was a huge story. And part of that story was the Queen, because when I was there, there was a lot of tension and people were waiting to hear from Queen Elizabeth. What was she going to say? And if you recall, there was a delay. And
yes. Oh, I remember.
You remember that there was a delay and people were wondering why, what's wrong? I mean, this is a huge story. And this is her family. Where is she? And so I remember covering that story, and there was a respectful, if you will, reaction from the people who were in London at the time, who were trying to honor Queen Elizabeth, with her position and her role. And at the same time, they were concerned about what happened. So that story lingered for a while. And finally, the silence was broken. And she did respond and spoke, if you remember the story.
I do. And what was so funny to me, because she always believed that duty came before her feelings. Mm-hmm. And it was the one time the public no longer let her get away with that procedural response that she would have had, where she had to show empathy with the people, and Princess Diana was all about the feelings. So yes. it was in hindsight, it makes much more sense today than it did even at the time we were witnessing that happening.
Very true. But and the Queen, as you just very nicely depicted her, she did have all of these emotions and these different feelings, and she fell into that role, at the age of 25. and, took on an amazing position in the world and was revered in so many ways, carried herself so well, and was in the middle of creating a lot of excitement in the country, as well as weathering a lot of the storms politically and also personally. I mean, we all know, what she has been through with her family. Recent stories involving, Meghan Markle and her other, grandchildren and family. So there's been a lot of attention on her, but she's managed, to pull it out. And she celebrated the Jubilee, her 70th anniversary as the longest reigning monarch. And that was amazing. That was in June. And, everyone just thought that she was just, just forever, that it would never change. She would always be there. I mean, that's all everybody has ever known is Queen Elizabeth. And, her passing was sudden too, because, there wasn't any word that she was imminent. I mean, that something would happen to her. Now King Charles, was in Balmoral and, was not even by her side because there was no word. We don't really know the story behind the story. What happened? How could that occur? Did the doctors know? Were they just being hesitant?
There's a photo of her on Tuesday greeting the new prime minister and carrying her classic purse. I love that the queen is always in her castle, but she's always clutching her purse. I love that about her, the queen with her purse.
It's incredible. It really is amazing. It's like, you follow her, but she really is being remembered, around the world as an extraordinary figure. Someone who has, gone through so many different achievements in the history of her country and her personal life. And I think that, we'll be seeing a couple of weeks now of tributes, and then there'll be a funeral, and then we're going to go through the coronation ceremony for, King Charles. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? After all this time, Prince Charles, and now it's King Charles III.
King Charles, we didn't know if he was going to get passed up, bypassed, if he was going to get ignored, and now he's king.
Or William would take over. That he would just abdicate and just say,
right,
give it to William. But here we have a king and a queen, and so that's another big chapter. But as far as Queen Elizabeth goes, extraordinary woman to be remembered forever. And I think as we talk about her, we'll all have stories to tell, interesting things that we will be hearing about. There's always I have found over so many years of covering the news that after the fact, there are stories that evolve, stories that are revealed. Someone writes a book. Someone says, "Okay, she's passed. So now I can share this story with you." So I think we're in for a lot of interesting times remembering Queen Elizabeth.
And Ernie, I know you've got your prestigious, coveted, coming up through communications in school. You have the Edward R. Murrow Award, which is, we all aspire to have that as a journalist. Like Queen Elizabeth, as you've seen through news, you've seen the technology change. Her first address was on radio. Now she, has Buckingham Palace has a Twitter account. And for you as a journalist, you've seen all the technology change as well. Like, how would you comment on what that was like for her to have as a centenarian? Of course, you're not a centenarian or anywhere near that, but for her to see all of that technology change.
Well, it's extraordinary. I mean, because I can relate to it. When I first started in broadcasting, I was just 16 years old at a local radio station in my hometown back in New Hampshire. And that was back in, 1960, 61. So think of all the changes that she has seen, that the Queen has seen, that I've experienced at the same time. I mean, we only had a couple of networks, particularly in our country. We had ABC, CBS, and NBC, and Fox didn't exist at the time. We didn't have cable. We didn't have satellite. We didn't have the internet, certainly. And so, we had a different kind of culture. When people were watching television, and I'm not telling you anything new, it was a community. I mean, we all watched, let's say, the Ed Sullivan Show at the same time, at the same day, and we talked about it the next day. Yeah. So we had these feelings of watching all of these programs, and it was very limited in many ways. And I can probably say to you, there was something nice about that. There was a beautiful feeling about being with one another. In local communities, there were local television, local radio stations, and people watched them. And then people would watch the network. And we only had a
We
couple.
called it appointment we ended up calling it appointment television. You would,
Yes.
you would book Thursday night out with your friends and watch the whole lineup on Thursday night.
Absolutely. And as far as news coverage goes, I mean, we didn't have morning news. We didn't have the noon, certainly didn't have 24-hour service. I mean, basically the format was a 6 o'clock broadcast, which was local news in almost every city in America, half-hour show. 6:30, you had the network, and that was it. And then you had your local 11 o'clock news. We didn't even have a 10 o'clock news. Think about how all of that has changed, what the Queen saw and what we witnessed at the same time. Extraordinary.
It is extraordinary.
We have to remember that this is exciting as well. I mean, progress is important. We have to be able to see the benefit that we have. I mean, when you think about this telephone, right? I mean, there's more information here than the computer that carried, the people to the moon.
Amazing.
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, all you have to do is, and I can tell you that, from reporting news, being on the air, if there was a breaking story, I didn't have to sit there and really start ad-libbing too much, because what I could do, I mean, I did have to ad-lib, but I would go here and I would look up, history of a particular story, whatever it was, a bombing or an airplane crash. And then I'd have the information at my hand and my fingertips. So, I mean, in the old newsrooms, someone would be typing up a story, typing. You've got that word, typing.
I remember typing. I remember typing in newsrooms. I do. We take turns. We have to take turns to get on the computer.
Oh, I know.
We wanted to work on the computer.
Keys, you know what I mean? They were loud, and then you pull the script out, for the teleprompter. You had
Carbon copy.
Exactly. So, we would do it, but someone in the newsroom had to know. If someone was wondering, hey, who was governor in 1964? Somebody in the newsroom would say it was so-and-so, or there was an encyclopedia, if you will, there was some reference book. But today, it's right there, bingo, or on this, internet. It's amazing.
One of the amazing qualities I love about you, and there are many, but you are so positive. Like, you are not a hardened news journalist, and many of us are. And I also felt very sensitive having to work in news. You remain positive, and you have a new show coming out this fall called Positively America. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Over the years, doing the hard news in New York, I also had sidebars. I would do half-hour programs, Positively Ernie, Positively New York. And I would just create these programs so they would just give me an opportunity to tell people about interesting stories, things that they should know about that could help change their life. So as a result, I took some time off from the desk, the anchor desk, did Harvard Business School for a year, and I loved it. Studied, leadership and management, and then created a program called Positively America. And I said, okay, I want to launch this program. It's gonna take time to build. I have to tell you, Jackie, I created this format. We have produced 26 shows. I did 75 interviews, and thanks to you, some of the people that you recommended to us. And it covers, everything: health, education, technology, lifestyle, relationships, the future. And I have expert guests that come on. We talk about positive things. What's good that's happening in your life? How can you help your children? How can you help your family? How can you help your career? So I've done a lot of good positive interviews and asked people, what's great about America. We also go out on the street and we ask people a fun question like, do you believe in love at first sight? Getting people's opinions on different things across the country. And I also have a segment at the end, which is sort of my motivational speech. I do about a minute and a half where I just tell people why they should be thinking a certain way, why they should live a certain way, how smiling is important, how, having good relationships are important, and how to do it and how to benefit from good relationships. So it's a program that I'm excited about. We're on about 150 stations across the country. If people go to their local listings, they can get it. We haven't listed all the stations, but we will. And we're negotiating right now to get on one of the streaming platforms. Jackie, tell me, is streaming big these days? Is everybody into streaming?
Yes.
How come, I want to ask you, I'll reverse the role here. How come streaming has become so popular? Why do you think?
Because it's so easy, because you can dial it up on your with just your thumb, and you can scroll and pick what you want to watch. and you don't have to wait for it. I mean, it's all about instant gratification, gratification.
Yes. Yeah. 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 It's all on demand. I think that's another thing too. When you talk about, again, I keep referring to this telephone, but it's like we live with this. And it's like everything instant isn't fast enough anymore. I mean, if you want a question answered, if you send somebody a text or whatever, you expect instant.
Absolutely. Changed my whole business, that respond on demand.
Right. I have to know immediately. And what's wrong if someone doesn't?
Where are you?
I know. And we're
Are you
talking
okay?
seconds here, Jackie, right? Seconds, not minutes.
I carry 2 cell phones. Go figure.
It's unbelievable. So, I mean, you're right. So streaming is important, and we're going to get on one of the platforms, and I think that's where a lot of people will be watching.
When did your first show air?
This weekend, September 10th.
Fantastic, Ernie.
Beyond
That's congratulations.
People should just check their local listings. But it's a building process, and I've been through that before. So we're going to be adding a lot of different segments to it. There are some ideas that we have. I'm also excited about taking this thing on an international platform. I think there are many countries around the world that would love to have Positively, Australia, Positively England, or whatever it happens to be. I think there's a global initiative here to spread positivity. I think people need it. It's not just us. It's not just America.
1000% agree. Plus, because positive happens in life, like we live a positive life, so we don't always want the reflection of negativity at us all the time, because that's not just the truth of our realities, and it shouldn't be the truth of our realities. So what you're doing is noble, and it should be global. So I appreciate that.
And that what really has been a major change here in our world has been COVID. That to me is the great reflection period. We're going to be looking back on this and saying the reflection, the great people stopped. When we were on the air reporting those incredible numbers of people who were dying every day, hundreds of thousands of numbers that we were reporting. I mean, that was frightening. And a lot of people stopped and said, wait a minute, what is my life about?
What's important?
What's important to me? What are the values that I have? What's the purpose of my life? So I think a lot of people, in one of the interviews we've done, is talking about how people are now working virtual. And they've said, you know what, I can have this particular type of work, but I want to have this lifestyle with my family or whoever. And I think that's an important part of what's happened in our world. And that's why the positivity factor is global, because everybody around the world has said, what's my life about? Where are the values? I've done so many interviews over the years.
How many do you think you've done?
Well, let me tell you something. I did a number one time. We had a football game on one night, and it was a late game. And so I was sitting there with my co-anchor, and we started writing down. I said, how many newscasts have I done? And I just started ballparking, 3 a day, for how many years, for how many months. And I came up with over 20,000 broadcasts, over 20,000 newscasts. And a lot of them were, interviews with people. And the 20,000 broadcasts did not include going on the air like with 9/11 and staying on the air, or plane crashes or other situations, and staying on the air for hours upon hours reporting, news. So, it's a huge number. But when I think back on many of the interviews, I interviewed a social scientist one day. I think she was from Harvard. And we started talking about life. And I said, so what is it? What should we know about life? And she said, let me see if I can tell you this. There are 3 things that people look for in life, and they think they're going to be happy and satisfied. I said, really? 3 things? Yes. I said, what's the first one? She said, people want more. They want more of whatever it is. They want more power, more money, more of whatever they're collecting. They just want more. I said, okay. She said, they achieve more, but they're still not satisfied. I said, okay. What's next? She said, better. Now that I have more, I want to make it better. I want to have a better house, a better car, a better business, a better spouse, a better, whatever it happens, I just want to make it all better. So they make it better, and they're still not satisfied. They progress to the 3rd thing. I said, what is that? Different. Oh, now I want to set myself apart from everybody. I want to be different. I want to have a custom made this and a unique this. I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to be me, special. So she said they go through more, better, and different. She said, think about this. And it makes sense, doesn't it? We know
So
situations.
fabulous.
But she said there's one thing that will change everything, that'll give someone a sense of life. I said, what is that? Purpose. Find a person who has a sense of purpose in life, what they believe in, what they want to do, why they're here. And it doesn't have to be some lofty thing. It could be anything, but just knowing that this is why I'm here. I have passion and commitment in my life for this. And she said, that changes everything. And it puts everything into perspective. And I always remember that entry, more, better, and different purpose.
Wow,
That's a great story.
That's fabulous. On that note, Ernie, thank you so much. Congratulations on Positively America. And thank you so much for joining us here on Front and Center.
Thanks for all you do. Congratulations, Jackie.
Thank
Bye.
you. This weekend, Positively America airs in syndication. So look it up on your network to find it, your local news station. And we'll provide information here about it as well. And if you'd like to see more episodes of Front and Center, you can hit the subscribe button on YouTube and follow us on any of your favorite podcast listening channels that you enjoy, like Spotify or iHeart. We're happy to have you here. I'm Jacquie Jordan for Front and Center. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Front and Center with Jacquie Jordan podcast. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Instagram at TV Guestpert. We'd love to hear from you.